He came home expecting silence. Instead, he found his CEO washing his dishes. Not in a mansion, not in a meeting room, but in the tiny kitchen of a broken single father who thought no one even noticed him. What she said next didn't just change his job, it changed his life forever. Jake Donovan moved through life like a shadow, present, but never truly seen. Every morning began before the sun. A quiet alarm, a cold cup of coffee, a small lunch packed with care. He never showed himself. He kissed his daughter's forehead while she slept, whispering promises he wasn't sure he could keep. Then he stepped out into a world that never waited. At work, Jake did everything right. He stayed late, fixed problems no one wanted, took extra shifts without complaint. But praise never found him. Meetings happened around him, not with him. His name was never remembered, only his work. Invisible. When he came home, the house felt heavier than his long hours. Toys scattered across the floor. A sink full of dishes. Silence that echoed once his daughter drifted to sleep. He would sit at the edge of her bed, watching her chest rise and fall, wondering if love alone was enough to make up for everything he couldn't give her. Some nights, exhaustion won. Other nights, guilt kept him awake. Deep down, Jake had accepted a quiet belief that this was all life had planned for him, that struggling, surviving, and being overlooked was simply his place in the world. Until one night, everything felt wrong. The front door wasn't the way he left it. The hallway light was on. Jake's heart stopped. Someone was in his house. Jake's breath caught in his throat as he stepped into the kitchen. The light was on. The sound of running water filled the room. Steady, calm, impossibly normal. His eyes followed the noise, and that's when he saw her. A woman stood at the sink, sleeves rolled up, quietly washing his dishes as if she belonged there. For a moment, his mind refused to catch up. Then his heart dropped. It wasn't a stranger. It was Lara Wilson. The name alone carried weight. The untouchable CEO, the woman whose photo hung in conference rooms, whose decisions reshaped entire departments with a single signature. At work, people straightened their backs when she passed. Conversations stopped. Mistakes became unforgivable. And now she was standing in his kitchen, alone. No assistants hovering nearby. No security detail waiting outside. Just Lara Wilson, rinsing a chipped plate like it mattered. "Mr. Donovan," she said softly, turning off the tap. Her voice wasn't commanding. It wasn't sharp. It was careful, almost fragile. Jake couldn't speak. His body felt rooted to the floor, his mind racing through every possible explanation. Had he missed an email? A warning? Was this some kind of test? His job flashed before his eyes, followed by his daughter's face. Rent, school fees, groceries. Power filled the room without her needing to say a word. "I didn't mean to frighten you," Lara continued. The door was unlocked. I wasn't sure how else to wait. Wait. CEOs didn't wait. They summoned. Jake finally found his voice, thin and unsteady. "Ma'am, why are you here?" She looked around the kitchen, really looked, at the cracked countertop, the worn chairs, the drawings taped crookedly to the fridge. Her gaze lingered on a child's stick-figure family, labeled in careful handwriting, "Me and Daddy." Something shifted in her expression. "I'm not here to fire you," she said quickly, as if she'd read his fear. "If that's what you're thinking." Relief should have followed, but it didn't. Instead, tension tightened in Jake's chest. "Then what is this?" he asked. Lara dried her hands slowly, buying herself time. When she met his eyes again, the authority was gone. In its place was something far more unsettling. "Regret. I came to tell you the truth," she said. "A truth I should have told you a long time ago." Jake's pulse thundered in his ears. She gestured toward the table. "May I sit?" He nodded numbly. Lara lowered herself into the chair like a woman stepping into unfamiliar territory. Her eyes glistened, but she didn't look away. "You don't know this," she began, "but last year, when the company downsized, your name came up." Jake swallowed hard. "I didn't fight for you," she said. "In fact, I approve keeping you exactly where you are." The words landed like a blow. "You work harder than anyone in your department," Lara continued. "Your performance reports are flawless. But I told myself you were stable, that you could handle more. that someone else needed the opportunity more than you did. Jake felt something break open inside his chest. I was wrong, she whispered. Silence filled the kitchen, thick and heavy. What changed? Jake asked quietly. Lara's gaze drifted to the hallway, toward his daughter's room. Tonight, she said, her voice trembling. I read a file I should have read sooner. She looked back at him, tears finally spilling. And once I knew the truth about you, I couldn't stay away. Jake's hands clenched at his sides. Whatever she was about to say next, he could already feel it. The truth wasn't just painful. It was devastating. Lara didn't speak right away. She reached into her bag and placed a thin folder on the table between them. It looked ordinary, plain, beige, forgettable. The kind of folder that passed through offices every day without changing anything. But this one changed everything. Jake, she said softly, you were never weak. He let out a bitter, humorless breath. Ma'am, I can't see how that's true. Lara opened the folder. Inside were reports, time logs, email chains, performance reviews with entire sections blacked out and rewritten. She slid one paper toward him, then another. For 2 years, she said, her voice steady but heavy, your manager altered records. Over time, disappeared. Credit for your work was reassigned. Promotion recommendations were quietly buried. Jake stared at the pages, his eyes skimming without really seeing. His hands began to shake. He used you, Lara continued. You were doing the workload of 4 people. 4. And every time you asked for help, he documented it as incompetence. The room tilted. Jake remembered the late nights, the empty office floors, the blinking cursor on his screen at 2 a.m. He remembered the way his manager would smile and say, You're strong, Donovan. You can handle it. He had believed him. I don't understand, Jake whispered. Why me? Lara's jaw tightened. Because you never complained. Because you were reliable. Because you had something to lose. Jake's chest tightened painfully. Images flooded his mind. His daughter on a school stage, scanning the crowd while holding her lines. The empty seat where he should have been. The way her smile faded just a little when the curtain closed. Another memory followed. A birthday cake, candles already melted down to wax stubs because he got home too late. Her quiet voice saying, It's okay, Daddy. I saved you a piece. His vision blurred. You miss things, Lara said quietly. Important things. Not because you chose work over your child, but because someone stole your time. Stole your time. The words shattered something deep inside him. Jake pushed back from the table and stood, pacing the small kitchen like a caged animal. I tried, he said, his voice cracking. I tried so hard. Every time I failed, I told myself I just wasn't good enough. That if I worked harder, stayed later, I could fix it. Lara stood too, tears streaming freely now. He let you believe that. He made sure you believed it. Jake's knees gave out. He sank into the chair, burying his face in his hands. 2 years. 2 years of missed school plays. 2 years of bedtime stories rushed or skipped. 2 years of living in survival mode, while someone else cashed in on his sacrifice. And the worst part, Lara said, kneeling in front of him, is that you blamed yourself. Jake looked up at her, eyes red, empty, broken. I thought this was all I deserved, he whispered. Lara shook her head fiercely. No, this wasn't your failure. She placed the folder back on the table. It was the theft of your life. And for the first time since his wife had left, since the world had grown unbearably heavy, Jake didn't just feel tired. He felt robbed, and the weight of that truth finally broke him. Lara stayed, kneeling in front of Jake long after the silence filled the kitchen. Most people in her position would have stood back up by now. They would have hidden behind legal language, corporate distance, carefully worded emails sent by someone else. They would have promised an internal review and disappeared into glass offices and polished hallways. Lara did none of that. She stayed where she was, on the worn kitchen floor, at Jake's level, and then lower. This happened because of me, she said quietly. Not just because of him. Jake looked at her, confused, hollow. You didn't steal from me. No, Lara replied. But I built a system that allowed it. And when I had the chance to see you, I chose not to look. Her words carried no defense. No excuses. Only truth. I signed off on reports without reading the people behind them, she continued. I rewarded results without asking who paid the price. And when your manager spoke highly of himself, I listened. When your name appeared again and again under impossible workloads, I looked away. Jake clenched his fists. Why come here, he asked. Why now? Because fixing this quietly would have been easy, Lara said. But it would have been wrong. She stood and walked to the table, pulling out another set of documents. I've terminated him, she said. Effective immediately. Not with a golden handshake. Not with silence. He'll be charged. Publicly. Jake's breath hitched. I'm reopening every case he touched, Lara continued. Independent audits. Back pay. Promotions restored. Policies rewritten. Safeguards added. It will cost the company millions. She met Jake's eyes, unwavering. I don't care. The weight of her words settled heavily between them. This won't give you back the moments you lost, Lara said. It won't erase the nights you blamed yourself. But it can stop this from happening to someone else. Jake felt something unfamiliar stirring in his chest. Not relief, not anger. Healing. Just then, a small voice broke the tension. Daddy. Jake turned. Sophie stood in the hallway, rubbing sleep from her eyes, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Her hair was messy, her pajamas too big, her presence impossibly gentle in a room full of grown-up pain. He rushed to her side. Hey, sweetheart. I'm sorry I woke you. She shook her head and looked past him. Her eyes landed on Lara. Why is the lady crying? Sophie asked. The question was simple, honest, unfiltered. Lara froze. Jake knelt beside his daughter. She's saying sorry, baby. Sophie thought about this for a moment, then walked forward, small steps carrying enormous truth. She looked up at Lara, then at the sink full of clean dishes. You washed our plates, Sophie said. Lara nodded, tears spilling again. My daddy works a lot, Sophie continued, her voice soft but steady. He says it's okay when he misses things. But I don't think it's okay. The room went still. I just want him home, Sophie said. That was it. No accusation. No anger. Just love. Lara's shoulders shook. She lowered her head until it touched the floor. I'm so sorry, she whispered. Not to Jake, not to the company, but to the child in front of her. In that moment, power didn't speak. It knelt. And for the first time since the damage was done, something real began to mend. Justice came quickly, just as Lara promised. Jake's stolen wages were returned. Promotions he'd earned years ago were restored. Policies changed, audits expanded, and stories like his were finally heard. The company shifted, slowly but surely, towards something more human. But none of that was the real miracle. The real change happened in quieter moments. It happened when Lara kept showing up, not as a CEO, but as a woman trying to make amends. She attended Sophie's school play and sat beside Jake, clapping the loudest when Sophie bowed. She learned how to cook simple meals, laughing at her mistakes. She listened more than she spoke. Trust didn't arrive all at once. It grew carefully, like something fragile but alive. Jake saw it in the way Lara knelt to Sophie's level when she spoke, in how she asked permission before helping, and how she never once tried to erase the past, only to honor it. Two broken adults, carrying different kinds of regret, began to heal together. Sophie noticed first. One evening, as the three of them sat on the couch, Sophie leaned against Lara and whispered, "You don't look sad anymore." Lara smiled through tears. Neither does your daddy. Love didn't arrive as a grand promise. It came as shared dinners, honest conversations, and the courage to be vulnerable. Their family wasn't planned. It was rewritten. And this time, it was built not on power, but on choice, compassion, and the bravery of a little girl who spoke the truth. This was never just a story about a job, or a CEO, or even justice. It was a story about being seen, about what happens when someone stops hiding behind titles and chooses humanity instead. Sometimes the people who change our lives don't arrive with answers. They arrive with honesty. And sometimes, the smallest kitchen becomes the place where a family begins.